Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Podcast. Check back every Wednesday to follow our entrepreneurial journey in Alaska, the last frontier. Welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurial Podcast. Today, we've got kind of a big business topic that we've been thinking about a lot recently. As we attempt to scale and continue to grow our businesses, many days, many weeks, it feels like there's just not enough hours. And through this, we've kind of shifted our thought process and how we think about delegating or hiring out for personal tasks as well as business tasks. So we're gonna talk about it today. But as always, Kelly, start us with the question of the day.
Question of the day. There's been a theme going on. It's about Thanksgiving. Question of the day. Would you rather in one day only eat cranberry sauce or only eat gravy?
The only thing you can eat for an entire 24-hour period
Correct.
is cranberry sauce or gravy.
Correct.
That's interesting.
Kind of fun one because the last time we kind of talked about that.
Yeah. I think we agreed that the sides of the Thanksgiving feast are more desirable than the turkey itself. In this case, I would say kind of the cranberry sauce and the gravy, neither really are dishes in and of themselves.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Cranberry sauce, maybe you could make an argument for that, but they're kind of almost in the condiment category when it comes to a Thanksgiving meal. But that said, I have often had cranberry sauce or some variety of that by itself, and it's quite good. But gravy, I can't think of a time that I just sat down and lapped up a nice bowl of gravy. That just doesn't sound too appealing to me. I think the gravy has to be on something or something be dipped into it.
It is so funny.
So I think I'd go with the cranberry.
I think I'd honestly go with the gravy.
Okay.
That's why I say it's funny, because to me, I mean, I love cranberry sauce, don't get me wrong, but I think it'd be too tart by itself.
Yes, that's definitely.
And I love tart things. I love sour tart, but I don't think I could do that on its own. Like, I think I would need, like, the gravy would just be fine because it's like salty, savory kind of, and you could do that by itself, I guess. I don't know, but you are right. It's definitely more condiment-y. Both of those, not necessarily something you would normally eat by yourself.
Yeah, I suppose, as I often do, I think maybe I found a loophole to this question.
Oh, no. You just don't eat that day?
Yeah, I could probably go 24 hours without eating at all.
It doesn't say you couldn't drink something. So you could drink smoothies for your sustenance.
You could drink gravy.
You could, ew.
Well, that's what you just chose. Gravy is a liquid. You're drinking it. You're not eating it.
That's not what I was getting at.
Cranberry sauce is a solid.
Ew.
What's between a liquid and a solid?
Ew, I don't know.
Jello. Okay, let's move on. I think that's enough.
What's between a liquid and a solid? Jello.
Okay,
oh, my.
So what you came here for, you don't want to hear my thoughts on gravy.
And the differences between liquids and solids.
Now, did you consider what kind of gravy? Is this a turkey gravy, a beef gravy, a pork gravy? Like, what's the base liquid? Where is that juice coming from?
Frank, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever made a gravy. I didn't even know there was a difference, honey.
Well, I think in general you kind of start with like a broth, kind of substance. Sometimes that's just like drippings from or a meat you're cooking, or just, it's like
I had no
chicken
idea.
broth.
Never made gravy,
right,
or at least homemade gravy.
This question quickly has fallen apart. All right, today, I thought kind of the way to approach this is kind of the way that we've thought about it sometimes. So I wanted to focus on the idea of delegating personal tasks, like maybe things around your house, repetitive things that maybe you don't like doing that just have to be done, every month, every week, something like that. And then we'll kind of apply the principles we arrive at from that to the aspect of a business. So I think to start, I think it's good to address that there's nothing wrong with not delegating anything and doing everything yourself. And when I say delegating, I'm maybe not following the textbook definition of delegate. I just in general mean having someone else do a task for you, whether it's maybe someone in your family or hiring it out to a neighborhood kid or a professional. That's what I mean by that word, and I'll probably keep using it improperly throughout the rest of this podcast. So there's not anything wrong with doing everything yourself. And there can be some pros to that. You can ensure it's done the way that you desire, maybe the way that you think is the right way. In some cases, you can do it significantly cheaper than if you hired someone to do it. Or it could also be something that you enjoy or find relaxing. I think a good example of this is lawn work. I think there's a lot of people that enjoy or find relaxation from working on their lawn, whether it's mowing or
Gardening.
Gardening, flowers, whatever, any of that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people really enjoy doing that. But if you thought about it, what could you pay to hire someone to mow the lawn for you?
If you're not.
If that's not something you enjoy, and that's maybe something that you should consider, and that's kind of the point we're trying to bring across today. So kind of on the opposite side, you might not, if you do everything yourself, you might not have time to complete everything, or you might fill your day doing things that you truly don't desire. You see some people, they spend all Saturday doing lawn work. Maybe they enjoy it. Maybe they'd rather be doing something different on Saturday. Another thing to think about is you might not have the experience or the tools necessary to do the job to the best degree. And you might end up making a simple job much harder, or take longer, or be even more expensive. And I got a kind of a fun example of when I did that we'll talk about a little later, involving vehicle maintenance. And then I think finally, from a financial perspective, and I think this is the biggest point that we wanted to discuss. If it's a task you don't enjoy, what do you value your time at? So let's think about mowing the lawn. I think that's an easy one that most people can kind of relate to and think about. You've probably mowed the lawn yourself or watched someone else mow your lawn, maybe someone else in your family. So with this task, let's start with the assumption that you do not enjoy it at all. You dread it every week. Or maybe you're like me and you dread it once a month. You put it off that much. And maybe the reason you dread it is because you put it off, and then it becomes an even more difficult task because the grass is really long and then the lawnmower jams. And
you see where this is going?
You've probably done this. So what's your time worth? And it might be hard to put a dollar figure on an hour of your time. And that's what I'm talking about. But you can start by thinking about maybe what you're paid at work. What's your salary? What's your hourly wage? And break that down to, if you have a salary, divided by how many hours you worked that year. If you have an hourly wage, that's your number. That's a good starting point. And if your number is really high to begin with, that doesn't really mean that you're better than other people. That just means in our economy, you have a skill or experience that's valued to a higher degree financially. Maybe it's something that takes years to learn or master, like being a medical doctor. Or maybe it's something that only you know. Maybe you created a special software or invented a really cool product. That's unique about you, and that's why your time is valued at a higher rate than someone else who might have a more entry-level job that doesn't take as much skill or experience to master. With that, Kelly, you want to hit the next part?
Yeah. So let's say, again, you're deciding, okay, let's try to figure out if we can hire somebody to mow our lawn. So let's say in your area it costs about $20 to hire somebody to mow. So let's just assume takes about an hour. There it is, done per time, $20. So consider what that would be based off what we just talked about, what your number is that's per hour, like your rough hourly rate. that you would get paid for anything, including your job. So compare that number to the $20. So would you, if you would rather do your day job for an hour and get the X amount you get, or mow the lawn for an hour and, in quotes, get $20 instead? That, like, because you're basically saving $20 by not having to pay somebody to do it. Again, we're going to go back. If you enjoy and you find it relaxing and it's basically a hobby to you to maintain your lawn, keep doing it. You should probably choose to continue mowing. This task can be either closely valued to what you value your time at. So maybe you're making $25 an hour, and that's like that $5 difference is indifferent. So I'll just mow it myself, no problem, because you enjoyed it anyways. Or even if it's undervaluing your time, but it's still a hobby to you and you really enjoy it, keep doing it. That's okay. Like that doesn't, like if you're making $100 an hour doing something normally, still taking the time to do a $20 an hour job is still going to be fun and enjoyable to you. Do it. However, if you don't enjoy the task, consider hiring that out. That could be someone, a local neighborhood kid. It could be even someone all the way up who has like a very expensive lawn care company that has like mastered what they're doing and does a lot of things. You can hire anywhere in between as well, of course. But if you are short on cash, consider this. Don't go into debt to try to get somebody to pay, like mow your lawn. But if it really is something you don't enjoy and maybe you don't have extra cash right now, consider trying to work a little bit extra at your office or wherever you're working to make a little bit of extra money. That's literally potentially even an hour of work for you. Consider trying to find another activity to make $20. Maybe find something in your home to sell for, or whatever that would help that month for that, $20 every time you get it mowed. Or barter and trade. Find a neighbor next door and they have a lawnmower. They like mowing the lawn, but they don't like washing their car, and you enjoy washing your car. Trade that time. Get them to mow your lawn and you wash their car, and vice versa. So that could really help you and your budget out by keeping it affordable.
Yeah, that's a great point. So next, how do you do this? And this is kind of where we personally at where we are at personally for our personal tasks. We have a good idea of which things we don't like doing or we just shouldn't be doing, and we feel that they could be hired out. And here's an example I hinted at earlier about vehicle maintenance. There was a couple of years ago, there was a year period where I had a desire to learn a little bit more about vehicle maintenance, and so I kind of did everything related to our vehicles myself that year.
The basic stuff.
As much as I could. I think I did a couple oil changes, other basic.
I think you changed the filter. You maybe did a headlight change.
Nothing too difficult. Yeah. Some of it was a learning process. The oil changes, you watch a 5-minute YouTube video and you're like, oh, piece of cake. And then it ends up taking you 3 hours because you've never done it before. And you learn a lot along the way. You realize you didn't have enough tools. And so that's kind of what happened with this story. In one of our vehicles, we needed to replace a power steering pump. Not too difficult of a task if you know anything about vehicles, especially in this Toyota 4Runner. And yeah, I watched that 5-minute YouTube video. No problem, I can do it. Well, one thing after another all happened wrong because I didn't really have the experience with vehicle maintenance in general. So I repeatedly got the wrong tool or needed to buy another tool because I didn't really have much of anything. So after 3 trips to different tool stores,
wow, I feel so bad for
rent
you.
or purchase tools, the cost of the job, which that was part of the other reason of doing it myself. I thought I was going to be able to save a lot of money, and maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I never even got a quote. But with all the tools I had to buy or rent, the cost went up by $100 or so. And then it actually took me several weeks to do this because I ordered a part online because thought it was going to be a lot cheaper. And it was pretty cheap, but it took several weeks to get to us. Maybe that's an Alaska problem. Probably is. Shipping was slow. So in doing that, our vehicle sat on our driveway for a couple weeks unusable.
We were down to one
which was
car,
really
yeah.
inconvenient. And also, once I finally got the part, in actually going in and replacing it, I broke and damaged some other things because I didn't really know what I was doing, and then created more work for myself and another trip to AutoZone. So all in, I did complete the job. The vehicle ran fine.
Yeah, and you did a great job.
No steering issues. We drove it for, I don't know, 2 more years before we sold it at some point last year. However, in hindsight, I probably should have just taken it to the mechanic. If I did save any money, I spent a lot of time, and I learned a lot along the way. And the biggest thing is there was the difficulty of only having one vehicle for a couple weeks because of that. So I think that's kind of an example of a good place to start. If you feel like you have too much in your personal life and you need to start hiring out or delegating tasks, think about things that you don't like or just aren't knowledgeable in. Vehicle maintenance is the thing that I've come to the conclusion on. I could do some of it myself, but I don't think it's worth my time because I'm slow. And then there's definitely a decent amount that's beyond my level of experience and expertise. So that's a good place to start. Some other examples of personal tasks that people might hire out from time to time. Some people dislike cooking, and they might choose to eat out more. If you think about it, that's a way of hiring out a task. The chef is the one cooking it for you. The other kitchen staff are the ones taking care of the cleaning and the dishes. Some might just do a meal prep service so they can portion control and things like that and not have to worry about themselves. Some hire house cleaners or lawn maintenance or snow removal. These in general are things that most anyone could probably do. They're not exceptionally difficult. They don't take years of experience to learn. But you might not enjoy them. And other people might be better at it than you.
Yeah, and I think another thing to consider on top of, I mean, we're not going to hit too in depth what I'm about to say, but even beyond disliking something, you might honestly not be good at whatever it is. You might not be good at mowing your lawn and you mess it up every time or something happens and whatnot. It honestly might be better if you hire somebody out. Or for practical perspective on physicality, you might physically not be able to mow your lawn anymore or never were able to. Or to clean your tub and like clean your bathroom, like that could be really hard on your back or your knees or whatever it is that's bothering you. So you do have to take those into consideration too, that it might not be good for you physically, even at that basic level, let alone you might not be good at it. So consider, taking your time, using it elsewhere to make money in another way, and then be able to pay somebody to come and do those basic things for you.
Yeah. So let's kind of take those ideas that we just hit on and apply them to a business. And this is where we also are with our business. As I mentioned before, we don't have enough hours in the day to continue to aggressively grow. We need help. And some of it is repetitive tasks that as business owners, we probably don't need to be doing ourselves. You don't want to be working in your business. You want to be working on your business if you're trying to run a business. And so some of those repetitive tasks are replying to customer requests on Amazon, doing bookkeeping transactions, scouring lists of inventory leads to find, a couple good ones out of hundreds. That's what I spend a lot of my time doing. Reviewing email inboxes to highlight only the important stuff. I get lots of junk. Maybe 1 out of 10 emails is important. So sometimes I miss that one. and sometimes I end up reading 10 that I didn't need to. Kind of a person that I've looked up to a little bit in the last year or so with these ideas is Avery Romer. If you haven't heard of him, he's a Amazon bookseller. He has a couple different businesses related to that, teaching people, helping people sell restricted textbooks, etc. And so I've followed him on Instagram over the last year or so, and I've been impressed with his ability and how much he prioritizes delegating different tasks, especially since he's in a very similar business e-commerce space. A lot of it I can kind of see and apply to our day-to-day lives. Some of the personal stuff he hires out is the cleaning of his apartment, his meal prep, and some of those day-to-day things like laundry that he doesn't want to do and he doesn't find is worth his time. As far as his business, I don't think, if he didn't want to, I don't think he'd have to ever touch a book. He has a team that receives the inventory, processes it, and ships it to Amazon. And he manages that team, and they do that work. He also has a lot of virtual assistants. I don't know how many, but those virtual assistants, he has some different software applications, and they do the coding and the programming for that. I don't know how much he knows about software, but I don't think he has a background in that. But he came up with an idea, and then he hired a team of experienced people who know how to do it and could implement his idea and make it a reality. He has people that go through his email like I just talked about and find only the important things and highlight that to him. And then I think the last one I want to highlight that I find really interesting is he has some of his virtual assistants book his travels. And he has a decent amount of business and personal travels that he does. That's part of his lifestyle that he wants right now. And so they'll go in and they'll book the airfare for him. They'll book the hotels, the rental cars, and the necessities of traveling. And at least for us, I don't know how it goes for you when you book those kind of things, but it takes us a lot of time. We're always trying to find the best flight, the financially as well as hour-wise, with the least amount of layovers, and then gotta look at the hotels or Airbnbs, find the one that's within our budget, but also has good reviews through the pictures. Then look at the vehicles. What kind of sedan do I want? What does mid-size sedan at Hertz mean again? I don't remember. And then you gotta look that up. It takes us a lot of time.
Yes.
And
it does.
And I personally am not at the point where I'm really comfortable hiring someone to do that for me. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Kelly?
I don't know. It depends. It's funny as we say this right now, as we're trying to offer our services to do that for others in regards to traveling to Alaska. But I guess what you're getting at is fully being like, okay, VA, like virtual assistant, this is like completely, this is just it, and not fully having any coordination with them.
Yeah,
I think that's what you're getting at.
It's a little different than what we do with our business. We create an inventory, then we have some back and forth dialogue to make sure like the client approves of these activities on these days, et cetera, et cetera. I'm talking about for him,
right.
He has a business card. He says, I want to travel on this date, and I need lodging for these days, and I need a vehicle, go. And then they find it, and they book it, and they swipe the card. And then they tell him, okay, Mr. Romer.
This is where you are. Here's your itinerary.
This is what you're doing. Yeah. So I'm personally
and like you're assuming, I'm assuming he's going to places he's never been before. Like some of these places he's never been. So he's kind of like, well, hopefully they've picked good places. Yeah, that would be difficult. That would be slightly uncomfortable, especially maybe too, because I mean, we're typically traveling with our son, so maybe that would be a little bit of extra like caution for that. But I think yeah, that would be interesting to be able to do, and I would love to be able to do that. Because yeah, it takes so much time to prep all that travel and all that, like coordinating where you're staying and whatnot. Is this a good car? Is this a good hotel? sort of thing. And man, like that would be really nice to have.
Yeah, I think the big thing is you're putting a lot of trust into that individual, especially considering, and this is again a difference from like our travel planning business. We part of our goal is we set ourselves up as experts on the subject. We live in Alaska. We've been to a lot of these different places.
Right.
We've stayed in many of the hotels. If not, we've checked that they're reputable, etc. The difference here is he's got a virtual assistant who's probably never even been to the state he's traveling to. So that's kind of the degree of trust.
Right.
Some of these virtual assistants aren't even Americans.
Right.
So
I wonder too if like not only does this help him, but I wonder how long he's had some of these virtual assistants on, or at the very least how what's like his guidelines he's given them, and like what kind of, I would love to know logistically what he did to set that up, because it takes a lot of setup on his end to tell them, okay, I want like a 5-star hotel versus a 3-star, or like, you know, like what's his minimum standards, or where does he need to be logistically? I would be interested to see how much legwork he put in ahead of time, or at least just guidelines he put in to be able to trust them.
And I think some of this kind of touches on a article that I read, I don't know, a year or two ago from some high-level business performers. And they talked about the idea that you only have the capacity mentally and emotionally to make a finite number of decisions per day. So say that number is 10. I think they like mathematically decided how many decisions it was. Say you only have the capacity to make 10 difficult decisions per day. Do you want to spend 4 of those on picking your airplane, picking your hotel, picking your car, and choosing which dates are best for the travel? Or do you want to trust someone to do that for you and then spend those 4 on maybe something that you think is more impactful? Like for Avery, he spends it on other aspects of his business. So that's something that I've often thought about.
That is very interesting.
How am I using my finite number of decisions, my energy for those decisions? Am I kind of wasting it in first thing in the morning trying to decide and overthinking if scrambled eggs or easy over is better for a rainy Tuesday versus a snowy Wednesday? Maybe I am. And I think maybe that's where that specific example, that's where some people benefit from a someone who talks for them. Delegate that. If you can't talk, have someone talk for you. No, a meal prep kind of plan. You wake up and you don't have to decide if it's scrambled eggs because you don't have a choice. It's right there. It's done. So the next part that I think maybe Kelly you can touch on is some tasks that we choose to hire out or delegate out in our business that we do it almost out of necessity because it's things that we don't fully understand ourselves, and we know there's professionals that can do it much, much better than us.
Yes, that is crucial because, okay, so a CPA is a first good example. You don't have to hire on as a full-time employee a CPA. I'll just step it up with that. So something that we are realizing is if we don't fully understand something, we could go find somebody who runs their own business or maybe a part of a like national business or something, and we can hire them on to help us part-time or however they're doing it. CPA being a good example, because we've chatted with our own CPA throughout the year multiple times, but it's not like a regular person we need to meet with weekly. So we did that because the CPA preps, if you don't know what a CPA is, they can do tax prep. I think some CPA, it depends on your CPA, offers like really intricate accounting Is that correct?
Yeah, they can do bookkeeping and accounting kind of stuff in addition to the tax filing with the IRS. Yeah.
Okay. So we don't do that part, but we use a CPA for tax purposes because, oh my goodness, prepping your taxes, certainly you can do that on your own. But I've been wondering, should you? Should you actually be doing it on your own?
Yeah, I mean,
specifically regarding business stuff.
It depends on how complex your return is. And we've done it many years on our own. But now when you have multiple businesses and more expenses and potential write-offs, it just becomes more complicated.
Right. And so a good example being like what you just said, like in the beginning when our businesses were small and you had a full-time income with military, yeah, it was just easier to do it ourselves. It wasn't super complex. And we also didn't have a ton of expendable money to just let's go get a CPA. It was kind of we have a finite amount. It's okay if we don't get all enough return or enough off of our taxes because we didn't think we'd get too much anyways. So we did it ourselves. But as our businesses have grown and we've received more income through them, especially as business owners specifically, not just being employees of a business, it's been crucial that we found a good CPA to help us file and really a huge amount save on taxes. In regards to your business, you can save taxes in so many ways, just so many ways. And there's we don't want to be spending our business and decision-making skills on trying to read through the tax laws. I don't care. Yeah. Just help us figure this out because it's just that, again, going back to the time thing, it's just so much time can be focused on that you really are taking it away from your business.
Yeah, and I don't know what we end up paying the CPA we've used per hour. It might be more than what we value our personal time at. But in this case, we're hiring him for his experience.
Yes.
And
it'd be
to
great.
Get it done right.
Yeah.
And to the best benefit, lowering our tax liability as possible.
Right. Especially in regards to if he does it in a shorter amount of time and still saves us the same amount of money, or more, right, than what we could do. That's even better. We would like that.
Definitely, yeah.
That's worth it. So I think we've realized that at some point, a CPA being a good example, there should be a point in your business, in your thought process, that you hire or bring somebody on that, like a CPA, to help you with your taxes. Because in the beginning, yeah, you probably should be doing a lot of it or maybe some of it at the very least. You're learning, you're growing your business. But then at some point, it becomes you can't do 10 people's worth of tasks within a year, within a month, within a day. It's not going to happen. You shouldn't be. You got to delegate those things, especially knowing your expertise. And if you can find an expert like a CPA, go find them. If you can find an expert in many other fields and careers that could help your business, go find them. Because they have, CPA again, has a full-time career towards that. He or she has a full-time career focused on tax laws and accounting and bookkeeping, but I'm going to focus on the tax part because that's what we work with, the tax laws, and they fully understand how to save you tons of money from paying the government. So that could really help you in saving you time and money.
Yeah, and we have another example here. You want to hit on that one about kind of the idea of marketing, social media, video editing, and producing. What are your thoughts on that in regards to that same topic, delegating?
Yeah, so many businesses use, they're going to use marketing. I'd say a lot use social media, and maybe less than that use video editing and producing. So that's why we're kind of comboing them, because all these three things can be separate, but also very interconnected if you're thinking about using any of them for your business. But any of these you can learn by or grow in your knowledge of these areas if you're not able to afford somebody for strict like marketing skills or social media skills, video editing skills. You can take a course. You can pay for a course online or in person. You could go pay for like an ideas list. An ideas list would be good for like trying to come up with social media like content or marketing ideas, like how could you market in certain ways, or what's the next video idea you could come up with for your business. You could pay for subscriptions. Some of these I'll relate one to social media. You could you could use their software subscription to help keep regular your posts on social media, like your social media stories, all the other words that they come up with, reels, all the things, the Tic Tacs or something like that too, right?
Mm-hmm, the Tic Tacs.
And then you could also pay for one-on-one coaching, or straight up have somebody become your like marketing plan advisor, coordinator, your social media manager, your video editor / producer. All of these ways, like you could grow and boost your business growth and find more customers by growing in that way. And so it doesn't always have to be strictly you hire out or find a new employee full time. Sometimes it's just going back to the lawn mowing. You could go and try to spend an extra hour to pay for that time that somebody would be doing to market, CPA, or social media, all the options you have for your business. You could barter trade with them. You could you have an allocated amount of money coming in. You're like, hey, I don't know what to do with this. I mean, like you're budgeting for a new marketing, I don't know, outreach, that sort of thing, or social media. So I think basically you just have to think outside the box a little bit and don't be isolated to saying, I have to do it all myself. Keep it within your budget. I mean, don't go crazy. Don't go in debt to do so. But just if you're not enjoying these tasks, or the very least, you're not good at them, like at some point your expert level, like for me personally, like we are editing these videos and posting them, our podcast videos are going on YouTube. We're not experts in that field, okay? I'm not perfect at it, but I do it because this is how we want to do so. If we were to hire someone, that person should be able to do it so much better, quicker, faster, and hopefully get more people watching or listening to our podcast. So if the idea there is to grow your business, think about ways in which where your weakness is, not only personally, but within your business, that you could hire out or barter or trade out and find a way to fix that problem. Or it's not even a problem, you just aren't even touching that market, or you're not touching the social media at all to get into the social media world, or whatever you're interested in doing. Why not be able to easily grow your customer base that way?
Yeah, and you don't have to hire a full-time employee or an hourly employee. I think contract work is a great way to go in many cases, and there's a lot of websites that encourage that for freelance workers. Fiverr, Upwork, then there's some other varieties of that, Craigslist.
Yes,
where you can hire someone per job as needed, kind of know up front what the cost is going to be for the project, kind of see some examples of what kind of work they could put out for you.
But if you are enjoying, I will say, if you are enjoying doing some of the posts on social media, now, I mean, don't let it take over all of your time that you could be focusing on other parts of your business. But if you're enjoying posting on social media and you want to continue doing some of that, and you just want to pay to learn more, or figure out, buy a course or buy an idea list, do that. Take the things that you're enjoying in your business and doing well, and try to grow those areas. And then the places where you're weak in, try to hire somebody out or find another way of growing that and making it better.
Yep. From a personal aspect, for our personal businesses, what have we done and what are we planning on doing? So we've had a couple contract type workers in the past for the e-commerce business. None right now. But for a number of months, I had a virtual assistant for primarily inventory management and repricing of mostly used books and a few other things related to that business. Paid her hourly part-time. And overall, it was good. And I think the biggest lesson I learned from that is I didn't have a clear idea of exactly what my expectations were for her before I hired her. So it was kind of a learning lesson there. Other contract workers we've had in the past for that same business, we've had a couple local used book sourcers, paid them commission per book that they found that met certain criteria. I spent time training them, gave them the tools that were needed. And overall, that went well. Their motivation level and excitement and drive to find books was not anywhere close what to mine was when I was doing that same job. And that was something that I learned from that experience. When you hire someone, they might not be as motivated as you, especially when you are the business owner and you have the passion for the business. You maybe see a little bit more of the rewards and the growth of the business and have more motivation there. As we move forward, there's a couple big things we desire to delegate out. Now some of these we already have done. So we have a CPA, like Kelly mentioned earlier, and we met with him a few times to kind of strategize and talk about where we're at and other plans and things we can do to take advantage of the rest of this year tax-wise. For our Turo business, I think we've talked about it before. We hired a photographer to photograph the vehicle. We could have done that ourselves for free with our smartphones, whatever, but it wouldn't have been near as good, the product that we got from Jordan at JR Squared Photography. Really, really good product. Very happy we chose to hire that out. And in addition to that, we've had many trips where we hired a detailer to clean the vehicle in between. That saved us time. We also sometimes have paid a little bit extra in a parking cost to keep it at the airport so that we can avoid having to drive over there and spend an hour and do the vehicle shuffle and then figure out where to park it at our house. So sometimes it's worth paying $30 to save ourselves a trip to the airport and a trip back, and then a trip a couple days later to the airport to drop the vehicle back off and a trip back. Moving forward, what kind of business things are we looking to delegate? I think the big one Kelly mentioned is video production work. As we try to grow our marketing presence, primarily for the travel business, Travel Last Frontier, we strive to put out more social media content, more videos, ramp up our website and the information available there, as well as things related to this podcast. We're not video experts when it comes to editing, like Kelly says. It's not something we really desire to learn more about. Kelly does most, if not all, of that, and she enjoys it from time to time. But I don't.
It's like a fun, like, creative outlet, but it's not necessarily something I want to, like, start making movies or something.
Yeah.
Like, there's like a point where it's just like, I know some basics and it's fun to play with the basics, but I'm pretty much like okay with where I'm at knowledge wise in that category. Like, I could learn more, but it's a lot. It can be a lot. And it's very impressive the amount of work video editors and producers can go into their videos, because it really is not easy.
Yeah, so that's something we've been thinking about a lot recently. What's the best way to delegate some of that work out in order to get primarily to the volume and consistency we want? That's the biggest thing we've had trouble with. We want to do one video or two videos per week consistently every week. That's hard for us to keep up with. The next thing on the list here, Amazon Prep Center. This is something that I started utilizing probably end of 2020. So for inventory that I don't find locally here in Anchorage, Alaska, that I end up shipping from the supplier, I try to often ship it to a prep center in the lower 48. They open the boxes, they verify the contents, they let me know what's there, they prep them and send them to the Amazon warehouses for me. This way, I never have to touch or even see that inventory. I've sold tons of stuff. I don't know what it is in general other than the picture I see on Amazon, which is kind of funny. But it's been a huge help in boosting and scaling this business. I save so much time by doing that. And I also, if I ran the numbers, probably save a ton of money by not shipping it to and from Alaska. That right there is a huge expense that I'm able to avoid by doing this. So it's probably safe to say I make more money by not doing it myself, which is awesome. The next one on the list here is, this is one that I just started creating an application for, and hopefully we'll be hiring someone for in the coming weeks, an Amazon virtual assistant for sourcing inventory leads. So this would be a role where someone would review potential inventory leads, make sure they're profitable, have the right sales velocity, and available at the right price. Some days I spend 5 or 6 hours a day doing this. Probably on average, I probably spend, 20 hours a week doing this myself. So right there, if I'm able to outsource that 20 hours, have someone else do that for me and pay them whatever that's worth, that's going to free up a lot of time for me to focus on other aspects of that Amazon business or other businesses as well. So I'm real excited about that one, and hopefully maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that in one of our upcoming podcasts, how I'm going to go about actually hiring a virtual assistant, interviewing them, making sure they're the right one for the job, and as well as training and creating those kind of standard operating procedures. These are my expectations, what I want done and how I want it done. So that was a lot. We've talked for 40, almost 50 minutes about this. I just any final thoughts before I wrap it up, Kelly?
I think just in summary, well, I'll start it off. If you don't like doing a task, or you're not good at it, or you can't do it, find somebody who can help you. Whether that's you pay directly for it, you barter trade, or you make it work somehow. Delegating tasks to free up your time to work on the business and not in the business has really been on our minds, and why we wanted to talk about this on this podcast today, because it frees you up to really work on, as a business owner, literally work on your business and grow it, not just be an employee of it, which is totally fine to be that, but it's just not necessarily what you are as a business owner. So we started by doing everything ourselves. If you didn't notice, some things we tried to work on, Josiah tried to work on the cars for a little while. But even with our businesses, we've done everything ourselves for the most part. And sometimes that's necessary to make it happen, especially in the beginning. But now we're at the point where we have consistent cash flow and enough time that, I said enough time. We have enough cash flow and not enough time to continue scaling. So we have to, if you didn't catch our last episode, you go check out how much we made in October. But we wanted to share our train of thought in this regard, in regards to delegating tasks. So to see what the next step is for ourselves. We don't have all the answers for even our own business, but we're working on trying to help others and give other people jobs and support other people in that way.
Yeah, so thanks for following along as we share our journey and our progress. We post every Wednesday. And if you want to follow us on other platforms, we're on Instagram at baconbagel_AK.
At jellybagel_AK.
Yeah, and I've been posting a lot recently specific to the Amazon business. So if that's something you're interested in, check out my Instagram. This podcast is also on YouTube. From time to time, we post some other content on there that's not on the podcast platforms. So go ahead, subscribe to that so you don't miss out. And wherever you get your podcasts, that's where you can listen to this. So that's all. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening or watching and tuning in.
Bye.